This is CBC Vancouver News.
Tensions escalate at a protest outside a Surrey Hindu temple where at least one person was arrested. Also,
you are hit with a 2 or 3 inch diameter branch weighing 50 pounds falling a good distance, it could cause serious injuries.
a powerful storm system is bringing heavy rain and snow to parts of the province, and it's prompting warnings from BC Hydro and search and rescue crews to be prepared. Plus,
people are excited for sure. Last year was really rough.
Meteorologists are predicting a colder, wetter winter for BC this year. It's welcome news for skiers and snowboarders after last year's dry spell. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. We begin in Surrey, where a protest and counter-protest outside a Hindu temple appears to have led to at least one arrest this afternoon. In this video, one person can be seen getting detained by police. There is no word yet on how many people were arrested. Surrey RCMP did not respond to multiple requests for information. At the time, a pro-Khalistan protest was happening across the street from the Lakshmi Narayan temple, where Indian consulate officials were present issuing life certificates to seniors. During the event, a counter-protest formed near the temple gates. The president of the temple was unavailable for comment. This comes after a similar protest took place yesterday outside Vancouver's Ross Street Gurdwara. However, a court order ordered a buffer zone to prevent interactions between protesters and officials. Meanwhile, in Brampton, Ontario, the chief of police in Peel Region says officers are stepping up their presence at a Hindu temple after a protest earlier today. Video posted on social media showing a clash of violence. Brittany Billette has more on the swift condemnation from the country's top politicians.
Video posted online shows the moments a protest outside a Brampton Hindu temple turns violent. It appears just before protesters were waving pro-Khalistan flags outside the temple's gates. Hours later, on the front steps of Sabha Mandir, worshippers gathered in a show of unity.
We should not get scared. Rather, we should act.
Peel police say they're investigating the incident, but so far no one has been arrested or charged. Both sides say the other group attacked first. The organizer of the rally says protesters were there peacefully.
The pro-Khalistan rally wasn't against any Hindu community. The rally was against the Indian officials, diplomats who were present in the mandir.
Six for Justice also organized this protest in Surrey, BC this weekend, where Indian consulate members visited a Sikh temple. BC court documents say officials are visiting places of worship to help community members complete administrative work, but protesters say the consulate members are a threat.
This is a long-standing dispute between India and its Sikh population overseas, the Khalistanis, who are seen by India as an existential threat, but as Canada and other countries say, they're our citizens now and they have free expression in our country.
Both rallies were organized against a backdrop of tension between India and Canada. Last week, Ottawa accused India's Home Minister of being behind several attacks on Sikh separatists on Canadian soil. It's an accusation that goes all the way back to last summer when pro-Khalistan activist and Canadian citizen Hardeep Singh Nijjar was gunned down outside a Surrey Gurdwara. The Indian government denies it had anything to do with his killing.
We're in for a rough patch, and there has to be temporary ameliorative actions taken to see to it that there's not violence of this nature.
A number of Canadian politicians took to social media to condemn the violence that erupted in Brampton, including Justin Trudeau, Doug Ford, and Brampton's Mayor Patrick Brown.
Places of worship are sacred. They should be safe places, and we don't want to see violence or intimidation in any place of worship in our country.
Worshippers say they want to see action, not words.
Whether it's Mayor Brown or whether it's a Doug Ford at the provincial level, or it's Justin Trudeau. Enough is enough.
Six for Justice says it's planning another rally next week in Brampton. Peel police say while they respect the right to peaceful protest, any threats or acts of violence will be investigated. Brittany Billette, CBC News, Brampton.
An incoming storm system is set to impact parts of southern and western BC overnight. It comes just weeks after an atmospheric river claimed the lives of at least 4 people in the province. As Sohrab Sandhu reports, the real concern this time around is the strong winds that are expected to follow.
Just weeks after a deluge of heavy rain washed out several houses in the lower mainland, another 40 to 70 millimeters of rain is set to hit the North Shore Mountains by Monday. That number is expected to be significantly higher for parts of Western Vancouver Island, with higher elevations seeing close to 100 millimeters. Environment Canada says for much of the south coast, the downpour will be followed by strong winds into Monday afternoon.
It could be gusts up to 80 kilometers per hour across Vancouver Island, and could be gusts more kind of 40, gust 70 for the lower mainland.
He says for the Central Coast and Haida Gwaii, as well as sections of northern Vancouver Island and Greater Victoria region, those wind gusts could reach speeds of 110 kilometers per hour. That has BC Hydro putting plans in place in case of widespread power outages.
All it takes for a lot of this vegetation that is extremely dry and many trees still have leaves on them is a little bit of wind to knock over a tree, and it has to make contact with the power line, and then you get a power outage.
This storm warning comes a little after 2 weeks after mudslides and floods caused by an atmospheric river led to the deaths of at least 4 people. Search and rescue crews are strongly advising anyone planning to be outdoors to steer clear of rivers and creeks.
People walk right up to the creek edge and are watching the water, and what they don't realize is that the current has undermined the bank of the water course, and what they think is solid ground is actually it's being eaten away by the water underneath.
McDonald says trees can also pose a significant danger during wind events.
Douglas fir does tend to shed its branches as a normal part of its growth. So if you are hit with a 2 or 3 inch diameter branch weighing 50 pounds falling a good distance, it could cause a serious injury.
Meteorologists warn, along with the rain, mountain passes in southern BC could also see more than 20 centimeters of snow, and combined with the wind could cause poor visibility and create challenging driving conditions. Sohrab Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
A standoff between hundreds of foremen and their employers means BC's ports could once again come to a standstill as early as tomorrow morning. As Yasmin Kootenay reports, the industry says job action could shut down the entire West Coast port system and risk hundreds of millions of dollars of trade per day.
The Port of Vancouver in operation for now, but the possibility of province-wide labor disruption looms.
We are very concerned about the potential of a shutdown of Canada's largest gateway.
The BC Maritime Employers Association is threatening to lock out more than 700 foremen Monday morning after their union issued a strike notice, sparking fears of a complete shutdown of the West Coast port system.
On the import side, the dominant traffic is the container traffic, which has got consumer goods and parts and components for manufacturers. So all of that stops across the board.
The union and employers have been bargaining for months to renew their collective agreement that expired in March 2023. The main sticking point, protecting jobs from automation, which is not addressed in the final offer from employers. Instead, it includes a 19.2% wage increase over 4 years and, on average, a $21,000 lump sum payment for eligible workers.
What do we want? Contract! When do we want it? Now!
This dispute comes just over a year after a 13-day port workers' strike froze billions in trade at the docks. Industry groups are urging Ottawa to step in.
We are asking the federal government to make ports an essential service so that they remain fully operational at all times.
Canada's Labour Minister says federal mediators are on site ready to help the two sides. He says it's their responsibility to reach an agreement, adding that businesses, workers and farmers are counting on them to get a deal. Yasmin Ghanaya, CBC News, Vancouver.
Dozens of ferry workers on BC's Kootenay Lake began job action at noon today. It comes after a long simmering contract dispute. BC GEU members say the most recent offer from their employer, Western Pacific Marine, was not satisfactory.
We need the same deal that Waterbridge Ferries and Waterbridge Equipment got, and we're going to fight until the end to get it.
The unionized workers have been talking about striking since at least September and are now taking job action over what they say are low wages and unsustainable working conditions. Ferries are now set to only run 3 times a day on weekdays and not at all on weekends, with essential sailings allowed outside of those times for emergency responders, school children, and medical emergencies. The Vancouver Park Board says a portion of the seawall in Stanley Park will be closed for just over a month starting tomorrow. The board says the seawall between 3rd Beach and Prospect Point will be shuttered as crews remove dead trees that fell victim to the looper moth infestation. The Park Board says a helicopter will be used to take trees from the cliffs above the seawall periodically starting the middle of this month into the first week of December. A statement from the board says the logs being removed are on high slopes and the seawall has been closed due to risks, and Prospect Point's cafe's parking lot will also be closed. Meteorologists are predicting a colder, wetter winter for BC this year. It's welcome news for skiers and snowboarders in the Lower Mainland after last year's dry spell. And as Michelle Gomez reports, many are already gearing up for what is expected to be a snowy season.
With snow already falling in Whistler and on the local mountains, skiers and boarders are preparing for a white season.
People are excited for sure. Last year was really rough.
Staff at local ski shops are already noticing a busier year.
This weekend specifically, the snow really started hitting. You could see it on the cams, and that's when people show up and start to get some gear and get ready for the season.
A nice change to definitely talk to people who are really stoked about it too. Definitely a lot busier than last season already.
The U.S. National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center is estimating a 60% chance of a La Nina winter, which causes slightly colder and wetter weather.
The forecast is turning out to be kind of weak La Nina, which is really good. Vancouver's going to be pretty miserable, but it's great for the local ski hills.
Pass sales at Seymour were slower this fall, says Whitehead, with people hesitant to buy after last winter. The North Shore Mountains struggled amidst dry and warm weather. It was a short season with multiple closures throughout the winter. But Whitehead says sales have picked up in the wake of recent forecasts, and they hope to open by mid-December.
So we still have a few left, but we expect they'll all be snapped up before we open.
Some diehard skiers have managed to find powder already this year, like Diego Bastardo.
So excited. I have so many videos right now. We're actually skiing yesterday. We hiked Seymour and we built a rail and stuff. It was so fun.
He says himself and his friends are excited for the snow to come.
The snow is going to be crazy this year. Yeah. I'm super stoked because I ski like full time. That's all I do.
Mountain cameras show snow on all 3 of the local mountains, and Whistler is preparing to open in just a few weeks. Michelle Gomez, CBC News, Vancouver.
As part of Climate Action Week, the New Westminster Library is partnering with the New Westminster Climate Action Hub to host a number of programs and seminars highlighting environmental awareness and climate action advocacy.
We're participating in the Climate Action Week, which is a new initiative in BC libraries. And this is the 3rd year, and we've organized a whole week of presentations and programs for all ages at our library and around the topic of climate action.
From movie nights to a climate literacy workshop and a class on how to reduce your environmental impact through smart clothing choices, organizers say the programs are designed for people of all ages. The events wrap up on Thursday. After the break, a growing number of customers are calling out some of Canada's biggest telecom companies for raising prices after contracts are locked in. Stay with us. More fallout tonight from our Go Public's team's investigation into telco contracts. Hundreds of customers from Rogers, Bell, and Telus have reached out, frustrated over agreements that lock them into a fixed term while prices are allowed to go up. Erica Johnson now on the growing calls for action.
Melanie Norman recently signed a 3-year contract with Bell for TV, internet, and phone, agreed to a monthly price, but her first bill was $5 higher for TV.
I wasn't expecting to get my first bill and have an increase right away. It was a bit of a shock.
Welcome to Bell. When she called to complain, a Bell agent confirmed price hikes during a contract are allowed. Key information she wasn't told before signing up.
Wasn't clear at all. Never mentioned it.
Since Go Public first told the story of a Rogers customer who thought she too had a guaranteed price that went up, hundreds of Canadians from across the country have reached out. Customers with Rogers, Bell, and Telus frustrated by contracts they call misleading, often with hefty penalties to cancel. It's prompted the NDP to demand action from government.
Canadians are getting ripped off.
A parliamentary committee on industry and technology wants Rogers' CEO to make an appearance. And Go Public has obtained a letter from the telecom regulator saying telecom providers should not be surprising their customers with price increases beyond what they originally agreed to. This contract law expert says it's time for the CRTC to specifically investigate telco contracts.
They're very difficult to understand, and it's very difficult to find as a consumer what rights you actually have.
Norman says when she called Bell about her bill, she also learned price hikes are coming for her phone and internet. A spokesperson says Bell regrets its rep did not provide clear information about potential pricing adjustments and has offered credits to offset her extra costs. Meantime, Go Public has learned the industry minister has texted with senior leadership at Rogers about that TV price hike that started it all. It's not clear exactly what was discussed or whether Rogers will roll back that increase. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
A U.S. election campaign like none other in the country's history is almost at the finish line. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump hold their final events tomorrow, both in the critical swing state of Pennsylvania. The CBC's Katie Simpson looks at what they said today.
Donald Trump is setting the stage and priming his supporters to reject election results if he loses, accusing his opponents of cheating in a series of baseless claims.
They spend all this money on machines, and they're going to say we may take an extra 12 days to determine. And what do you think happens during that 12 days? They are fighting so hard to steal this damn thing.
In one of his final rallies, Trump's language hit extremes even by his standards. From the former president expressing regret he left the White House after losing the 2020 vote.
We had the safest border in the history of our country the day that I left. I shouldn't have left.
To jokes about the attempts on his life and violent rhetoric.
To get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much.
She's in Detroit.
Kamala Harris focusing on battleground Michigan, urging voters in Detroit to make a plan to get to the polls.
In just 2 days, we have the power to decide the fate of our nation.
And trying to combat Trump's unfounded claims of voter fraud.
I would ask, in particular, people who have not yet voted, to not fall for his tactic. The systems that are in place for this election in 2024 have integrity. They are good systems.
All the day after a surprise appearance on Saturday Night Live.
The American people want to stop the chaos
and end the drama
with a cool new stepmama.
In Washington, D.C., at Harris's alma mater, Howard University, preparations are underway to host Democrats and their election night headquarters. Students here remain hopeful, inspired by Harris's candidacy.
Honestly, it is an amazing feeling. It's crazy to think that we have come so far.
Oh, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling to see how she came from being at Howard and just to see that there's goals for me to, maybe get in politics one day.
National and swing state polls suggest this race remains a toss-up with just hours of campaigning left. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Here we have a live shot of Harbor Center Tower tonight. I'll have your full forecast coming up next. All right, it is time now to take a peek at our full forecast. Let's begin with a special weather statement that's been issued for Vancouver Island and Metro Vancouver, with the North Shore being hit with 40 to 70 millimeters of rain overnight and into tomorrow morning. Strong winds are expected to follow, and snow is expected on mountain passes, about 20 centimeters of snow on those higher elevations, which of course can add to the visibility issues when driving in those areas. A quick peek at the forecast tonight. Lots of precipitation and snow around the province. 1 in Prince George with snow flurries, -1 in Williams Lake, 2 in Kamloops and Kelowna, and 8 in Victoria. And heading into tomorrow's forecast, Dease Lake is a -2 with snow. Fort St. John sitting at that 0 mark for tomorrow and snow. A bit wetter in Prince George with a high of 6 for tomorrow. Similar conditions in Williams Lake. In Kelowna, 7 degrees is your high for tomorrow. And on the island, Victoria, you're going to see a high of 14. And again, a lot of rain across the entire province. In Metro Vancouver, Monday is going to see those heavy rainfalls overnight Sunday and into Monday morning, and it should clear up by midday. It was a smashing good time this weekend as the New Westminster Firefighters Charitable Society held its first ever pumpkin drop. Take a look.
People are bringing their old pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns here. We're dropping them 100 feet from our tower truck. So the New Westminster Firefighters, we have a charitable society. So all the money that's donated today goes to our charitable society, and then we help different societies and organizations around the city of New West and the province. It's been a good, fun, family fun community event. We've had hundreds of pumpkins drop, I think over 300, at least 400 or 500 attendees, and yeah, it's just been a good day. It's an easy way for us to raise money and people to enjoy dropping their pumpkins. Definitely interesting seeing a pumpkin drop from 100 feet high. The kids love it. I have seen smiles on their faces all day.
That is your late news for Sunday, November 3rd. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. For news on the go at any time, you can head to our website at cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Have a great night.